So, hello everyone, back to the topic respiration. So, in respiration, we know that life processes, all the processes which are necessary in maintaining the life of organism, that is nutrition, respiration, then excretion and transportation are necessary in maintaining the life of organism. Already we discussed in previous session about the nutrition. Today we are going to discuss about the respiration. Basically in this particular context we are going to discuss about what is breathing, what is respiration, about the human respiratory system, then the very important topic, that is aerobic and anaerobic respiration, we are going to discuss. So many of them will be having the confusion like what is respiration when we ask. So usually what they will tell, so respiration is nothing but the breathing, taking oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. That is incorrect. Respiration is altogether different. Breathing is a part of respiration. Let us try to understand all those things in this particular concept, that is respiration. So what is breathing? What is respiration? Let me first clear you. So breathing is the process of taking the air rich in oxygen and giving out the air rich in carbon dioxide. That is called as breathing, which takes place with the help of the respiratory system. When we take the air rich in oxygen, that process is called as inhalation, and when we give out the air rich in carbon dioxide, we call that as a exhalation. So one inhalation and one exhalation, both together we call that as what? One breathe. On an average, the adult human being will breathe around 15 to 18 times at his rest position. So when we take the air rich in oxygen, it's not only the oxygen is coming, we are not picking the oxygen molecules and we are inhaling it. No, along with that some other gases are coming, but the oxygen is being utilized in the body for burning the food and generating the energy. And when we are giving out the air rich in carbon dioxide, it's not like all the gases from the lungs is pushed out through the exhalation. Some residual amount of the air is left inside the lung in order to exchange between the lungs and the blood. So what is breathing? See here, breathing, intake of the oxygen. It's not only intake of oxygen, intake of the air rich in oxygen from the atmosphere and giving out the air rich in carbon dioxide. Along with that, some amount of oxygen also will go out during the what? During the exhalation. Now, respiration means what? It's very simple. So when you take the air rich in oxygen, that oxygen will go into the blood from the lungs. How it will go, we'll discuss further. That oxygen is carried by the RBCs. Then when this oxygen will reach each and every cells of the body, this particular oxygen, what it is doing, it is breaking down the glucose into water, carbon dioxide and energy. So the energy is released over here. How? In the presence of oxygen. This process of breaking down of glucose in the presence of oxygen to produce the energy, this process which is taking place inside the cells, we call that as what? We call that as a respiration. Hope the difference between the breathing and respiration is clear to you. Types of respiration, we have aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Very important part of this chapter. Most of the questions will come on the aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. They learn of what is breathing, what is respiration and all. Yes, aerobic and anaerobic respiration, they do ask the question based on this. This is very simple. Aerobic respiration, the respiration which takes place in the presence of oxygen is called aerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration which takes place in the absence of oxygen, we call it as anaerobic respiration. Let us try to understand these things in detail, aerobic respiration and the anaerobic respiration. Now let us try to understand the difference between the aerobic respiration. So as I told you, aerobic respiration takes place inside the cells of the body. Anaerobic respiration also takes place inside the cells, but this anaerobic respiration takes place in the cytoplasm, where it takes place inside the cytoplasm of some of the cells. But aerobic respiration takes place especially inside the mitochondria. Mitochondria. Let us try to understand the difference between the aerobic respiration and the anaerobic respiration. Very simple. It takes place in the presence of oxygen. It takes place in the presence of what? Oxygen. Such respiration we call it as aerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration means what? Anaerobic respiration means what? It takes place in the absence of oxygen. That is one difference. This occurs in the mitochondria and this occurs inside the cytoplasm of the cell. And end products are carbon dioxide and water. Here alcohol and carbon dioxide and lactic acid in the muscle cells. So here more amount of energy is released, here less amount of energy is released. Why? See, when we have the food, we know that during the digestion process, the inside small intestine complete the digestion takes place. This digested nutrients are absorbed by the villi and it will send to the blood, and blood will send these nutrients to each and every cells of our body. Now food or the simplified food or simple food substance or the digested nutrients has reached all the cells of the body. Why we are having food? Because we need to gain the energy from the nutrients. Now, if the energy need to be obtained from the food, if the food has to break down to produce the energy, that means for that what is required for that? Oxygen is required. Oxygen will act, oxygen will burn the food. Oxygen will burn the food and it will break down the food and it will generate the energy. How it is happening, how exactly it is happening, how the aerobic respiration taking place, how the anaerobic respiration taking place, where it is taking place, you will not understand by seeing the difference between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Let us try to understand with the help of very important part of your chapter. 3 marks, sometimes they last, 2 marks they last, 1 marks based on this different examples of the equation they last. So stay focused. This is very important part of your chapter. Lot of questions will arise from this particular concepts. Shall we start? Yes? Okay. Now see here. Very simple. Just pay attention for 2 to 3 minutes. You will get a complete idea about this breaking down of glucose by various pathways they will ask, or they might ask the question like oxidation of glucose also means the same. Breaking down of the glucose or oxidation of the glucose means glucose in the presence of oxygen, how it is breaking down. Both the things are same. Now see here, when we know that the glucose is there inside the cells of the body, after the digestive nutrients been transported by the blood, all the cells they have the glucose. Now they are given here 6 carbon molecule because the formula of the glucose is C6H12O6. We all know that. Inside the cytoplasm, the first step is inside cytoplasm, this particular glucose will break down into pyruvate, or we can call it as pyruvic acid. We can call it as pyruvic acid. This is a 3 carbon molecule. Why it is 3 carbon molecule? The formula of the pyruvate is C3H4O6. Okay. Then this particular pyruvate will further break down inside the mitochondria. See here, this thing. Okay, this is the example for what? Aerobic respiration. In the presence of oxygen inside the mitochondria, this pyruvate 3 carbon molecule will break down further to form the carbon dioxide, water as a byproduct. And what is synthesized here? Energy is synthesized in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. That means the energy is stored in the form of ATP. Then our body will utilize it for the various activities which are taking place, or the various process which are taking place inside the body. It may be nutrition, digestion, respiration, excretion, okay, all the physical activities, how the nervous system is working. Everything requires the energy, and that energy is obtained how? By the aerobic respiration. and the energy is stored inside the mitochondria in the form of adenosine triphosphate, that is the ATP. What exactly is happening over here? If you try to understand this particular concept, see, in each and every cells of the body, adenosine diphosphate molecules will be there, and also free moving phosphorus group will be there. Inside the cell, they will be there. Whenever the energy is released, no, this energy will form the bond between the diphosphate molecule and the single phosphate molecule. Together, they will form the ATP. That means the energy is utilized in the bonding between the diphosphate and phosphorus molecule inside the mitochondria, and it will be stored in the form of ATP. Then when we spend the energy, how we spend? If I am doing like this, that means I am spending the energy. My muscle cells inside the mitochondria of my muscle, inside the muscle cells of whatever the mitochondrions are there, where they store the energy in the form of ATP. No, that ATP is breaking down. That link is breaking down. This particular link will break. That means ATP, when it's spending the energy, it will again convert into ADP and phosphorus. This linkage will break down and it will release what? It will release the energy. Again, when the ADP and phosphorus molecules are freely moving, again during the aerobic respiration, again energy is released, and again there is a formation of linkage between the diphosphate and phosphorus group, and there is a formation of ATP. ATP is what? The stored energy in the mitochondria, adenosine triphosphate. When it spends the energy, when we utilize that energy, that ATP will break, again it will become ADP and phosphorus. That linkage will break, energy will be released, will be utilized by the body. Very simple concept. It is given in the textbook. So hope this is clear. Now next one is this is the example for the aerobic respiration. This is the example for the aerobic. Anaerobic. So two examples are there. One which is taking place inside the yeast cell in the absence of oxygen. Where does it take place? Inside the cytoplasm. Remember that. So first step is common. In aerobic and anaerobic respiration, first step is common. That glucose will in cytoplasm, it will break down into pyruvate. Further, this pyruvate inside the yeast cell, absence of oxygen, it will form the ethanol, C2H5OH, alcohol, ethanol, two carbon molecule, along with that carbon dioxide, and energy will be released. Here, very less amount of energy is released, that is around 2 ATP, but here it will be there in the form around 38 ATP molecules of energy is released per mole of glucose. Hope this is clear. Here less amount of energy is released. This process of converting the glucose to form the ethanol or producing the alcohol by the yeast in the absence of oxygen, we call that process as what? Fermentation. What we call it as fermentation. Production of alcohol from the glucose. That's why in the sugarcane industries and all, the leftover, the what we call as molasses and all, they will dump in a pit, they add the yeast cell and completely they will stop supplying oxygen. Then this yeast will start producing the alcohol and all those things. Similarly, one more example is there which is taking place in the muscle cells. In the lack of oxygen, instead of presence of oxygen, it will produce more and more energy, carbon dioxide and water, but lack of oxygen. When the oxygen supply is not sufficient, the glucose will completely not break down to form carbon dioxide, water and more amount of energy. Instead of that, this particular pyruvate will break down in the lack of oxygen into lactic acid. Say for example, if I am walking like this, my lower part of the body, the muscle cells, what they are doing, they are releasing the energy and our muscle cells are utilizing that energy. That's the reason I am able to do the physical movement. If I start walking little bit faster, then what is happening? More amount of glucose is breaking down to produce more amount of energy. Then for that, if the more amount of glucose has to produce more amount of energy, more amount of what is required? Oxygen is required. because oxygen only will break down the glucose to produce energy, right? More energy, more the demand of oxygen. Now sometimes while playing sports after a long time and all, suddenly when you start running with high energy and all, that time what happened? That's the reason sportsmen, no, the real sportsmen, they do warm up exercise before playing any sports and all, because they do get the cramps and all. So suddenly when you start doing vigorous exercise or playing sports and all, running and all, that time what will happen? Suddenly the demand of energy will become high. Suddenly the more amount of glucose will break down into more amount of energy. But what will happen here? The sufficient of amount of supply of oxygen is reduced over there. That time this particular glucose or pyruvate, instead of breaking down to produce carbon dioxide, water, energy, it will produce the lactic acid, and this lactic acid is responsible for causing the cramp in our muscle cells. One marks question, give reason. Why do the athletes they get the cramps while playing the games or while playing the sports and all those things? So because of lack of oxygen in the muscle cells, glucose or pyruvate will break down and they will form the lactic acid. This lactic acid is responsible for causing the what? For causing the cramp. But after some time when you relax, if you apply the ointment and do some sort of massage and all, so after a few minutes again we get relaxed, because again this lactic acid will break down to form the carbon dioxide, water, and we feel relaxed. So this is all about the breakdown of glucose in various pathways, or sometimes oxidation of glucose also they'll ask, or sometimes they might ask a difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. These two examples are of anaerobic respiration, and this is example for aerobic respiration. Hope this is clear for you. Yes? Any doubts are there? Please do not forget to mention in the comment section. If you feel I am going too fast and all, in YouTube you can slow down the speed and try to understand. Next one, human respiratory system. We discussed about the digestive system. Very interesting it was. Human respiratory system is also as much more simpler than the digestive system, because most of the times, no, here they will come up with one marks question. One marks question. How they ask, what they ask. Let us try to understand. See here. Focus here. Now see here. The air, what we are inhaling, no, that air will enter into the respiratory system with the nostril. These two holes, what we can see, no, those are called as what? Nostrils. That is the air enters the what? Respiratory system or the passage. Next one, this region is there, no, where the cavities are there. Two cavities are there, no, that is called as what? Nasal cavity or the nasal passage. Here, the nasal cavity inside our nose, we have thin fine hairs and the mucus which is present inside the nasal cavity. What is the major function of these fine hairs and the mucus which is present? Mucus means the wet, the substance which is present in the nose. It will trap the foreign particles entering into the respiratory system. Foreign particles means the particles which are coming from what? From the America, West Indies and all. No, not that foreign particles. The foreign particle here means the particles, so-called dust particles, which try to enter into respiratory system, which can cause the infection in our respiratory system. Those we use the term as the foreign or the dust particles. So these fine hairs and mucus will trap those dust particles inside the nasal cavity. They will not allow them to enter into our respiratory system. That's the reason once in a while we will get so much amount of dirt and we start using fingers and all, will remove where the dirt is coming from. Not from inside, from the outside which the air is going. No, these fine hairs and mucus is filtering the air, not allowing any dust particles. See here, passage lined with the mucus and thin fine hairs will trap the dirt and the dust, and it will help in filtration of air. Very simple. Next one is pharynx, then comes the larynx. Remember, after pharynx, then comes the larynx. Pharynx is a common passage. It is a common passage. Imagine this is the food pipe, and this is the windpipe. Okay, this is the wind pipe, and this is the food pipe, so called esophagus. And this is the region which is a common passage where the air will enter into. When the air is entering into the windpipe, so this food pipe will get closed with the help of the epiglottis. It will not, sorry, when the food is entering into the food pipe, the windpipe will get closed. Okay, let me just explain in a better way. No place for diagram. Now see here, this is the windpipe, this is the food pipe, or you consider this as an windpipe and this as the food pipe or esophagus. When you consume the food, no, the food should go directly into where? The food pipe. That time this windpipe will get closed by the thin flap membrane that is called as epiglottis. That is epiglottis. Whenever we take the air, it is going through this passage only. Whenever you are having the food, when you swallow the food, the food particles also is going to the food pipe through this passage. So this is a common passage which is present over here, which is a common passage for the passing the food as well as the air. So hope this is pharynx is clear. Next comes the larynx. Larynx is also called as voice box. Produce the sound, contains the vocal cords. When we want to speak something, if you hold your hand in front of you, the air is gushing out. You can sense the air which is coming from our lungs. Then only we are able to produce a sound. When the air will rushes out of the respiratory system, when it passes the larynx is made up of two thin slit membranes. Thin slit membranes. When the air is rushing out of these two thin slit of membranes, these membranes will start vibrating, and vibration of these membranes will produce what? Will produce the sound. Will produce what? Will produce the sound. That's the reason it is called as voice box. Like when we were small kids and all, if we would have taken the strip of paper in centrifuge cut with the blade and hold near the mouth and start blowing the air. Vibration of those thin slit papers will start vibrating and start producing kind of sound and all. Yes or no? Same logic applies when it comes to the larynx. Then when the air will pass the go into the next part is the what? Next part is the trachea, so called windpipe. Then this trachea will divide into, it will go into the left and right length, so called bronchi. This bronchi will further divide into smaller and smaller branches, so called bronchioles, and these bronchioles are surrounded by what? They are surrounded by the alveoli. Very important is here the alveoli. So many questions they will arise from the alveoli. Now say for example, you can see here in the diagram, let me zoom it. Hope this is the image you can see here. Yes? Can you see the image? This image? Alveoli image. Is it clear? Clear, right? Yes? Fine. Now let me draw over here only for a better understanding. So what happened, I know. So there are lakhs of alveoli which will cover the at the end of the bronchial, we call it as air sacs. Now imagine this is one particular alveoli. One particular alveoli. Now here what is flowing? Here blood is flowing. Here what is flowing? Blood. Because the walls of alveoli are covered by the thin blood vessels, so called capillaries. So what is happening over here? When during inhalation, when the carbon oxygen level will increase into the alveoli, that oxygen will start moving from the higher concentration towards the lower concentration. Higher concentration towards the lower concentration. What is this? Here what is flowing? Here blood is flowing. When carbon dioxide level will increase, inside the blood, then what will happen to that carbon dioxide? It start moving from higher concentration towards the lower concentration of the alveoli. From the alveoli, it will go to the bronchioles, bronchi, trachea, then it will be expelled out. Similarly, when the oxygen come here, it will come to the trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, then the alveoli. Alveoli walls are covered by the blood capillaries where the blood will be flowing, and with the process so-called diffusion, this oxygen will start moving from higher concentration of the alveoli towards the lower concentration of the blood. Now here is the very interesting thing you need to focus. Now remember that oxygen is fairly soluble in liquid, but carbon dioxide is completely soluble in liquid. If the oxygen is fairly soluble, it will not dissolve completely, it will not get dissolved completely in the blood. That means that oxygen is required by each and every cells of the body, right? Because that oxygen is only able to break down the glucose to produce energy, and we require energy. Without energy, no organisms cannot survive. So something should carry that oxygen to all the cells of the body. Anyway, the blood is, heart is pumping the blood is reaching to each and every cells of the body, each and every corner of the body. The blood is going. Along with that, the oxygen, if it has to go, it should be soluble, but it is not soluble. Now, there is a pigment so-called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, which is the pigment. That's the reason blood is red. What is the main function of this hemoglobin? Is it is having the capacity to bind the oxygen. It is having the affinity towards the oxygen. Now RBCs are anyway, they are going in the blood to all the parts of the body. When the RBCs are going, they will take this oxygen, bind with it, and it will start moving to all the parts of the body. That's the reason. Sometimes in your homes and all, if your moms, they will tell, right, I am feeling little bit dizziness. Whenever I work, I am getting tired and all. When they go to any clinic, they do the blood test and they will tell what doctors say. Doctors will tell that in your body, the blood has become less. Blood is not become less. Inside the blood, there is something called hemoglobin. That hemoglobin content has been become reduced. Lower the hemoglobin, lesser the supply of the oxygen to the cells. Lesser the supply of oxygen to the cells, then production of energy will be reduced. Hope this is clear. After respiration, the carbon dioxide which is released in all the cells of the body, that is coming to the lungs, because that carbon dioxide is soluble inside the blood, but not the oxygen. That's the reason we have the pigment so-called hemoglobin. Hope this is clear. Here one more important I forgot to tell. Hope that thing is not mentioned over here. That is rings of cartilage. What is that? Rings of cartilage. You can see the trachea. On the trachea we have C-shaped structure. Rings of cartilage. If this is a trachea, it is very soft muscle. Okay, and what might happen when we inhale, the trachea might open, but in the absence of air, the trachea might collapse. Like when you blow the air in the balloon, it will swell up. When there is no air, the balloon will collapse, right? Similarly, the trachea might collapse. So to prevent the collapsing of trachea, this C-shaped rings of cartilage will always keep that trachea open. That's what the function of rings of cartilage. This one they might ask, or most of the time 90% they'll ask the question on the, remember, alveoli. Go across all the questions related to alveoli. On Saturday, I am going to upload 30 most expected questions for this midterm science exam. Remember, how many number of questions I am going to discuss? 30 questions, and also along with that question I am going to discuss with the answers. It will be displayed on the board, and based on that question answers, what all different kind of questions they might ask based on the same concept also I am going to discuss. If you are going to miss that video, definitely you are going to suffer in the exam. That important those questions are there. Those questions are repeatedly they have been asked in the midterm or the pre-board exam or the board exam and the model question paper. All those things collectively I have made one PPT for that, and tomorrow I am going to discuss all those questions, and by evening or by Saturday morning or Saturday evening I am going to upload in my channel. What is the name of the channel? See down there. What is the name? Mahaveer Jain Academy. And what is my name? Your Mahaveer sir. Hope this is clear. Fine, don't miss that. And along with that, two model question paper. Two model question papers. Till now, I am searching in the YouTube channel. Nobody has solved two model question paper yet. I am going to do that for you guys, and you are going to take benefit out of that and score good marks in upcoming half yearly or the midterm exam. That's for sure. Keep that in mind. So stay tuned with my channel. Yes? Do you? Yes, I think so. So next one is what? See here, there are two types of breathing cycle. That's what we discussed: inhalation and exhalation, or inspiration or the expiration. Okay, this was sometimes trace a sequence during the inhalation. If they ask and all, how it will go? First, the air will go to the nostril, then the nasal cavity, then the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli. Expiration, reverse: alveoli, bronchioles, bronchi, trachea, then larynx, pharynx, nasal cavity, and the nostrils. It will come on. This is very simple. What is happening during the inspiration? The ribs are coming outward and upward, and the diaphragm. I forgot to tell about the diaphragm. I'm extremely sorry. The dome shape, the thick muscular sheath will be there in the abdominal cavity below the lungs. That is the diaphragm. When we inhale, the diaphragm will become flat to reduce the air pressure. What is the main function of the diaphragm? To reduce the air pressure. When we inhale, no, the diaphragm will come downward, that it will become flat. During exhalation, the diaphragm will move upward. That means it is creating the pressure to throw out the air. What happens to the ribs during inspiration? Ribs are coming upward and outward. During exhalation, ribs are coming inward and downward. Keep that in mind. Hope this is clear. So the next one we are going to discuss about respiration in plants. Yes, plants do respire. Plants not only breathe. We know that plants will take carbon dioxide, utilize for the photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? Steps involved in photosynthesis already we have discussed. Yes, in the nutrition part. But during night time, plants what they do, they utilize this. That's the reason, no, in our home elders and all what they say. During night time, it's not good to, it's not safe to sleep under the tree, because what will come? Devil will come, Bhutani will come, and all they will tell. Yes, everybody have tried sleeping at the night time in the forest and all. Very difficult. Why it is so? Because during night time, they take some amount of oxygen and give out the carbon dioxide. Because of more amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we feel breathless. We feel heaviness in the chest. We will not get proper sleep because of lack of oxygen. Suddenly we will wake up. Then we will tell, yes, grandpa, you were telling the right thing, that devils will be there under the tree and all. No devils and all will be there. This is the logic behind that. What is the logic? That, see here, exchange of gases occurs through the stomata. So stomata already we discussed. And respiration means what? Carbon dioxide is produced. This carbon dioxide used in the photosynthesis. Net result, oxygen is given out during the daytime, which where what is taking place? Photosynthesis. But during the night time, there will be no photosynthesis is taking place. Night time, what is taking place? The whatever the stored food is there, no. Plant also require energy. Plants also require energy for the active absorption. We will discuss in transportation in the plants. What do you mean by active absorption? So no photosynthesis will take place during the night time. Respiration will take place. Carbon dioxide is produced and oxygen is utilized. So net result, the carbon dioxide is given out. That means they will also break down the glucose or the food to produce the energy. That energy also utilized. How it utilized, we will discuss in transportation in plants. Very important, again, 1 or 2 marks question for your half term exam. What is that question? Frequently asked question is, why do aquatic organism breathe faster than the terrestrial organism? Why do aquatic organism will breathe faster than compared to that of the terrestrial, the animals which are staying on the land? The reason behind that, the terrestrial organisms utilize the free oxygen molecules which are present in the atmosphere. That's the reason breathing rate is normal. But aquatic organism, they need to select, they need to pick, they need to utilize the oxygen which is present in the dissolved form, and as I mentioned that oxygen is fairly soluble in water. Only some amount of oxygen will be dissolved in that particular water. That oxygen need to be utilized by the aquatic organism. So aquatic organism breathe faster than compared to that of the terrestrial organism. Remember, very important. Sometimes they'll ask this question. Breathing in fish, what will happen? Well, the fish will take the water inside the mouth and pass it outside the gills. When the water is flowing from the mouth to the gills, they will utilize the dissolved oxygen, and that's how the fish also undergo the breathing or the respiration. So this is all about the respiration. Hope this is clear. Yes, respiration, very important thing is aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration, especially the breaking down of glucose by various pathways or the oxidation of glucose by various pathways. So many questions they'll ask. And respiration, why do terrestrial organisms breathe faster than the aquatic organism? Two major questions repeatedly they ask. And now we are going to discuss the my favorite topic or the concept of this chapter. I love heart. Dil ki dhadkan. Heart. See, this is the heart. This is the golden heart. Okay, good people have, they will tell you he is having golden heart. I am also having golden heart. But the color is not gold color. It is same as that of your heart only. Yes. So we are going to discuss about the understanding the human heart, structure and function and all those things.